Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Grounded on Clouds podcast. We're here in Pai, Thailand, with a live studio audience. I'm gonna shake your hands and from the live studio audience. My name is Josh, and I am here with my constant co-host and best friend Ray.
Namaste.
And we are joined today by a special guest, Yaniv Rose.
Woo. Do you have like a theme song for this? Like Grounded on Clouds?
I think we have the beginnings of one right now. Thank you. Thank you, Neev.
Of course.
Can we do it all together?
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Grounded on clouds. Amazing. Wow. Magical things happen when you get on the podcast, Neev.
I love that name, by the way. It's a great name, and it's very much like resonate for who I am.
Okay. Well, I'm so glad
I want to ask about that.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. How does it resonate with who you are?
With who I am. Maybe you should cheat a little bit for the camera.
Cheat?
It's like a phrase from acting on stage. You're like, you're not 100% turning towards
I see. Yeah,
cheating
you're kind
a
of
little
looking
bit.
at them, but
Yeah.
it's hard not to look at you, Neev.
We are learning so much.
Already?
Our podcast has already improved 800%. Thank you.
This is exactly
Wait, the
100%.
question.
So, I'd like to hear, Neev,
Yeah.
why you just said that you really liked our name, Grounded on Clouds.
Yeah.
Would you like to talk more about that?
Sure. Do you want me to hold this?
Sure.
Hey, testing. Is that a thing? Okay. I feel like most of my life I've been very airy and like I'm an air sign and stuff like that. And I feel like it's been, I've just been, it feels like a little shameful even that I've been like not good enough in the field of grounding. Right? It's like the world and the society expects us to like, the Western society at least expects us to be like more grounded, have work, study, stuff like that. And I've always been like, woo! And I've always felt a lot of shame around that. Yeah. But I've found my own way to be grounded, I feel. And I'm moving more and more towards that and balancing these two things. So that's why I love this.
Amazing.
That is absolutely beautiful. And I'd love to explore more of your way of grounding. And I think we will through this conversation. I'd just like to add that Neev is a connection warrior. So your path in life is one that is deeply woven into the fabric of relationships and exploring relationships with yourself and other people's relationships and, helping them. I'd love to just hear I just want to hear your description of kind of what you're doing here because you're doing so much.
Okay. This is so weird to be doing this on the microphone and being like we're all like in a different kind of state of consciousness. It feels like we're in a state of like, oh, we're being observed and we're doing this for an audience and stuff like that. And that's I'm just like kind of feeling into that and feeling a little nervous and feeling like, are people gonna like this? Is this gonna be meaningful? And like, am I being authentic? Whatever that means. So you like that?
I love everything you say so much.
I second that. I also love everything you say.
Love both of these guys and gals and everything in between. So the question, what I do, I think the red thread of what I do is kind of allowing people to bring more wholeness into the relationship. And what does that mean? It means that wholeness is, for me, the amalgamation of all our parts, right? And the more I can accept within myself and to bring into a relationship, the more rich, meaningful, and full it is, and the more it allows me to grow and change and evolve, and at the same time be deeply loved for who I am. Right? That's the elevator pitch.
Wow. I have never thought about it like this. Being whole in a relationship, I think, as you were saying, like earlier, authentic, and what does that even mean? And I love this word wholeness, because authentic almost seems to me, it's like, are you being real right now? It's almost like a little bit, it can feel like a little bit like of a test.
Yeah, how can you not be real?
Yeah, exactly. Right. But like the question of wholeness is what parts are showing up, because it's a recognition that in every moment you're real, but just what side of that reality are you showing? And you had this, you talked about at the beginning, this red thread. Can you explain that?
So the red thread, just for posterity, I don't know if I'm using the right word, but we kind of restarted recording.
Yeah, technical difficulties again, but we're here.
So we're just exploring something again, this red thread. And I think from what we just spoke about, a red thread is something that in its core helps you follow an idea. It comes from this mythological story of the labyrinth, of the Minotaur in the labyrinth, and how the person that I don't remember their name went into the labyrinth and used a red thread in order to follow them so that they will know how to get out. So the red thread in its core is both the deep idea, the deepest of deep ideas that you have, that you're exploring. We said that it could be also your why, and then also how you express it, or how do you allow others to follow your trail, right? And then everything, when you have this distilled red thread, then it's easy for you to create emergence, to create, for my example is like, workshops and retreats, but like a book, for example. Can you imagine a red thread inside of a book? How it's like the distilled idea at the same time, and the way that you kind of pave the way for others to follow.
I see. As I said before, we had technical difficulties. I find this to be extremely interesting. You actually proposed this idea to me at community lunch like 45 minutes ago. Just this idea of what a red thread was. And I could see in the ways in which I'm interested in so many different things, so many different mediums. I'm interested in poetry. I'm interested in music. I'm interested in writing. I'm interested in podcasts. I'm interested in dance. I'm interested in connection, and obviously being a human being, having relationships with people. And I can see that in all of those things, there is a red thread, but it's, for me, the red thread that's coming up for me is this propulsion to finding the vibration of freedom and projecting it in different ways. Wow. But I can also see the ways in which I can get lost in, if I'm not remembering that's why I'm here. Like I can get very lost in, making music and just forgetting, just making songs for the sake of making songs and forgetting that grounding principle, or making raps. And, it's very easy when you're doing something to just want to be the best and to get lost in wanting to be the best at it instead of trying to be the best at, or in trying to like stay connected, to that red thread. So I think this idea is really, it just changes my entire perspective, and what I'm doing is such an important thing to keep in mind.
Yeah, I feel like with this, because one of the things that I'm after is freedom, but one of the other things I'm after is peace. And I feel like we get really hard on ourselves for the times that we lose the red thread or we don't feel as connected. But I just want to bring the energy of how important it is to lose ourselves and how important it is to disconnect from people or to have a conflict. Like even just the other moment, we had an uncomfortable moment where you shared something with me that it was a way in which I kind of didn't communicate properly to help them feel very secure in our connection. There's just something I could have said slightly differently, or more communication, and it was a little uncomfortable. But I just want to give the energy too that it's so important for us to have these moments of where we make a mistake, or where we fail, or where we lose the red thread, because this is also a part of us finding ourselves even more. And that contrast is so important. And so I just kind of wanted to add that energy. And yeah.
If I can say something about that, one of my other red threads is the belief that conflict equals energy. And it is an energy that is, one of my mentors, Jason Diggs, has a book called Conflict Equals Energy. And the whole idea, it's a book about authentic relating, that it is base material. You know, we are alchemists. We are those beings that are able to take any energy and transmute it and transform it into whatever we want. And conflict is such a huge, like, bucket of energy. Like, when you are in conflict with someone, real conflict, then, like, the untold amount of energy that is in there, because you care about something and they care about something so deeply that they're willing to literally fight to the death for it sometimes, right? And how do we are able to, we have this energy of alchemy, we have this ability to be alchemists. How do we take this energy and transmute it into more connection, into more intimacy, both with ourselves and others, which is the whole concept of authentic relating. Yeah.
Wow. This is, that's a life-changing paradigm, I think. Just because I think so much of the society that I felt disconnected from back home, and so much of what I learned that I had to re-explore and teach myself new perspectives, is this idea that we should run away from conflict or friction, that friction is uncomfortable. And we want everything to just be smooth and kind of glide. And that idea, and, you know, it sounds really nice. Like, everything just is smooth and there's no conflict and everything is working peacefully. But I know in, like, my household growing up and just in life that when we don't have friction, we kind of just lose our ability to create change and to make, you know, we're losing so many opportunities. And it's not like the friction doesn't exist when you don't have conflicts. There's just conflict, but you lose the ability to create energy from it. It's almost like if it's always going to rain, but it's just whether or not you have, like, a cistern set up, or, like, rain, you're catching the rainwater, you know? And it's like the conflict is you catching the rainwater. Like, the river's always going to flow, but whether or not you put up a dam and collect the energy from it, it's an interesting thing.
It's, you know, what comes up for me is this idea of, you know, software quality assurance. You know, there's a team, when you're building software, you're taking it for granted that there's going to be bugs. There's going to be issues in the software. You're not like, there's no issues with the software, you know, like, exactly. You have a team that's, like, meant to break the program, meant to find all of the bugs, so that, why do we do that? Because,
there aren't arguments, you're just debugging.
Exactly. Wow. You're creating a stronger channel between you, because what is an argument if not a place of just miscommunication? It's not like when we were talking, you know, I don't fully agree with the way that you presented our little pinch, because it's not that you acted in a way that made me feel or that was wrong or bad. It was just something arose in our connection, some bug that we needed to address together for us to be able to communicate, to have a clearer channel. It wasn't that you did something wrong or that I did something wrong. It's just, like, just different context. You know, I love to tell this story of one of my mentors, Raul Castano. He tells this when he teaches this idea of context in authentic relating, which is that let's say you're a couple and you're going to a party together. And I am going to this party with my partner, and it's her friends. Okay, it's a party with her friends, and I'm expecting her to like be with me because I don't know everybody, and I'm, you know, like I'm gonna be probably like more shy and stuff like that, and so I'm expecting her to be with me, but she is expecting to like be a free bird. It's her party, like with her friends. She hasn't seen her friends in a while. We see each other all the time. We live together. She's expecting to do. Now we don't talk about this, right? Because it will be very vulnerable for me to be like, hey, would you be with me? Or like, so it's easier for me to expect one thing, and it's easier for her to expect another, right? And then what do you think will happen once we go to the party?
Yeah, there'll be conflicts.
Yeah. Just because of this bug that we didn't talk about, we didn't address, that none of us is right or wrong here. Beautiful. Right?
Yeah. I see. And so with this acknowledgement that every relationship needs to be debugged, and that debugging is how you create the very best software, is how you approach these relationships in a way in which when conflict comes up, you're like, oh, joy. Like we're making the software
with the
better.
Right people. With the right people.
I see, yeah. So like there have to be, I mean, obviously you're a human being, so there are relationships in which there's a lot of conflict and that you decide they're like, you know, you're like, this just isn't the right software. But how do you know for you?
Oh, that's the big question, isn't it? Yeah. I love that question. And also, it's a question that I ask myself every day. Because every day I create new relationships and I deepen old relationships, and I ask myself, is this worth it? Is this something that I feel like will traverse, you know, will it be useful, how much energy I'm putting into it? And I think it's a constant balance, and it's a constant like weighing of like, how am I feeling right now? You know, how much energy have I put into this? Does it feel good? You know, because I have such a lens, we all have this lens of like, we're basically expecting the worst in a way, because we're kind of feeling our own trauma.
Wow.
Right? We can't see the other person without the lens of our trauma. That's our practice, to be able to see reality as it is. But a lot of times, what is trauma if not like if our brain is always predicting what's going to happen? Trauma takes a lot of weight for that prediction, right? If I was attacked by a dog when I was young, then every time I meet a dog, I will have part of an energy that's be like, am I going to be attacked here? As opposed to someone that grew up with dogs and they see the same dog, right? And one person will feel a certain way, the other person will feel a certain way, and it's all about our old life, our traumas. Why did I start to say this?
The question was about when you know that a relationship is not one that you want to continue to pursue, even though there's conflict.
Right.
Because it's an opportunity, but still.
So I would say that the practice is to use the relationship either way as a laboratory of how do I feel? How am I connecting? Like, how is this enriching my connection with myself? And sometimes that means not to self-abandon and say like, okay, this is enough. And sometimes that means, no, let's stay a little bit more in the uncomfortableness. There is value here. There is something to explore with gentleness to myself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense.
Yeah, you've been impacted by this. Tell us.
Yeah.
I think at this point my mind is just blown right now.
Well, Ray's completely blown away. But I see. So it's this it's this constant question, and it's kind of like,
Love it.
it's kind of like an ebb and flow. And I think that for me, I can see how much mastery this takes, because it can feel very doomsday-ish to have to make that decision of whether or not to, like, I mean, a relationship isn't suiting or isn't, working for me because of the current situation of like conflict, or maybe this conflict is too much. And I think that's partially because of my trauma, to like say to someone, this relationship, the amount of conflict that we're experiencing is just too much, and I don't want to continue pursuing this relationship for the time being. It feels like abandonment, which is one of my my greatest fears, I think, for myself. Wow. And so to allow myself to first of all reframe that that's not abandonment, that we're just doing what's best for ourselves. And like, it's kind of like when in a laboratory, like you said, when something just, when an experiment is just not teaching us a lot anymore.
Wow.
And we could be using this same energy and time on a different experiment that would serve us better. And it could be for a host of reasons, like maybe we don't have the correct tools and technologies to do this. Like so many, I mean, there's so many technologies where they're like, let's make
in 5 years.
Yeah, they're like, let's make a self-driving car. And they decided that in 1970 they wanted to do that. And at some point you could have just kept trying for 50 years. You could have been like, we just don't have the technology right now. Like, let's wait till we have like AI and better microchips and stuff and then do it. But yeah.
And I also want to say that it's not a 0 or 1 thing. It's not like I'm in a connection and we're building it, and then it's like so triggering, and then you like, okay, closing it, you know? It's like, you can also de-escalate it, like it can also be like, okay, we've been talking every day, or we were having a sexual or romantic connection. Can we kind of take one step back from that? Wow. It's not an abandonment. It's like, okay, I need, exactly. Yeah. It's renegotiating our connection, because that's the only way that we can stay in connection. We change all the time, every day, especially living in places like these. We are changing so rapidly. So we have an opportunity to either change together or apart. And for this wholeness to have room, we need to be able to create space both for ourselves and for the other to evolve and emerge.
See, I love this so much, and this idea of, because you're right, we're expanding, and especially in places like Pi, it's like it's a community where a lot of people come for spiritual development, for personal development, but we're expanding and we're discovering parts of ourselves that we didn't know before. But what I'm curious about, because I love asking you these questions, because I remember after like the workshop of yours that I went to in Kopangan, I had very similar questions of just how to communicate these things in ways that are kind.
Remind me to plug my workshop after this.
Yes, definitely.
Yes,
But how would
giant plug anyway?
Yeah.
When you're just, so we have something also very practical for the viewer, when you're renegotiating these spaces and these relationships, how do you go about it? Just like verbally, the communication.
I love that question. Thank you so much for bringing it, like grounding from the clouds, because we've been in the clouds until now, and now we're like, okay, so what's a practical thing that people at home can do in order to renegotiate their relationships? That's a great idea. So first of all, one of the moments where how to renegotiate, or that you need to renegotiate, is conflict, right? There's a conflict, something happens, you feel overwhelmed, you feel like something has been kind of, the status quo has shifted in a way that is kind of, it can't go back to the same thing. Then the first thing that, well, I have a whole retreat about this, but the first thing that you have to do with yourself is, first of all, be able to come back to regulation. Either it's with yourself or together with the other person, because right now, when you are activated, you're not thinking straight. you're much more in your, because what is a trigger? What is an activation? It is a signpost that brings you back to a place in the past. I'm sorry if I'm like talking too much and conceptualize like
maybe to make it simple for people, because we have a lot of listeners who are very new to this,
right, makes sense. So thank you for saying that, because then I was like, okay, I don't want to get into that. You can come to my workshop if you want. Another plug.
Also, you should.
So be vulnerable, regulate, first step.
what does that mean?
It means come back to a place where you feel more at ease, more calm. You might have to take some space for yourself. Nature is a great way to regulate. Another person that's not directly connected to it that you can talk to about this.
So like basically whatever help the person specifically helps them regulate. So like breathing, yoga, and nature, a walk.
Yeah. And get to a place where you feel like you can actually also listen to the other person.
Amazing.
Okay.
And when you're arriving to a place where you're like, okay, I'm not in the full activation of this, I might still be feeling feelings, but I'm able to express myself in a way that's owned, like that's not like you made me feel angry, but I was angry, you know, without this like you made me feel thing, which is very much into the blame. Kind of own your own experience, and then see if you're able to hear each other and you're able to listen to each other, and do you feel seen and heard? Right? And if you feel seen and heard or not feel seen and heard after you've come to this place, then you will know how to navigate this thing. Because if you feel seen and heard, maybe the renegotiation needs to be like, okay, now we understand each other better, and this is how we will act in the future, right? And maybe you won't feel seen and heard, and maybe actually the renegotiation needs to be you with yourself. That's like, okay, I'm gonna take a step back from this.
Oh, I see.
Be vulnerable, communicate this, like say like, hey, this is how I feel. It might be challenging, especially if you don't feel seen and heard by this person. And we always have to renegotiate with ourselves. So regulate, connect, create connection. You know, sometimes it's also a really good thing to be like, hey, you know, before we start to talk about this like heavy thing, can we just spend like 10 minutes to just like catch up, to just have like a normal conversation together, just like to feel connected with each other.
This is huge for me.
You want to say that? You want to say something about that?
What you just said has changed my relationships so much. Is that instead of just jumping into, and this happened to us too, Josh and I, instead of just jumping into a heavy conversation, be saying, look, there's something I'd like to talk about. It's a little bit heavy, but we don't need to talk about it now, or taking 10 minutes before you talk about it to just chill, take a few deep breaths together, eat something. You know, actually a lot of our people who are new to this kind of relating, some of your fights are just because you're tired and hungry. And I feel like that's a very simple way of, you know, regulating. When you said that, some people might be like, regulating, what's that? Or, you know, make sure that you feel good in your body, you know, before you enter into that space where you're going to do some conflict resolution, own your own. Everything you're saying is important. But just that little piece I got super excited about because that's a big one for me is kind of communicating, okay, this is a difficult moment, but actually we don't have to go right into it now. Maybe we need to, take a little bit of time before we go in there, and then you can emotionally prepare yourself. So thank you. Because
a threat in a conflict is feeling threatened. It's feeling like I'm in danger. Right? So, and we are, as humans, we have the ability to co-regulate. Our nervous systems can connect. And this is what regulation sometimes means. It's like coming to a place of peace within your body. So we have this ability to do it with another human being by just like being together, sometimes breathing together, just talking in a way that, oh, I feel safe here. It's okay. Like we're friends. It doesn't feel like there's threat here. So coming back to that place can help us talk from that place. Yeah.
I see. That's so multiple. There were multiple incredible, just very grounded, practical tips. And one thing that really interested me in what you said is that, I mean, there are a lot of things, but just to get more specificity on is that in these conflicts, there's potential for you to renegotiate with the other person, but in every conflict, you're renegotiating with yourself. Is that what I heard? Is that...
I have nothing to say. That
Okay. Wow.
Mic drop, totally.
I think, yeah, this entire episode is a mic drop.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Neev, for being here. We're out like kind of the cap of time that we like to make our episodes, but I just like to give space as an opportunity for everyone else, for you to talk about your workshops, your retreats, and where they can connect with you. Because like if you're like me, you just want to connect more with Neev as much as you can.
Hey, everyone. So, August 29th till September 1st, 2024, I am doing a retreat in Koh Phangan called Relational Alchemy. It's 3.5 days of sweet, sweet connection. And it's all about how to alchemize the relationship, how to alchemize the energy of conflict into more connection. Be it in your romantic relationship, friendship, with family. How can you use this energy that exists there and create more wholeness and give more space to myself to be in the connection and the other person? And it's an incredible retreat. You can go to yanivrose.com/alchemy for that. The other thing I will plug is November 1st in Pi. I'm doing a week-long retreat called Empowered Connection, and that is about the red thread that I was talking about, of how our way we interact with others, the way that we move through the world in relationships is painted by this lens of our past, and how can we use the relational field as a laboratory to explore these parts together and play them out to create more awareness and more embodiment of our full selves. So check that out. YanivRose.com is my website. Yaniv_Rose_ is my Instagram. Relational Alchemy on Facebook. Thank you guys. Love you.